This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, December 20th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
With just hours remaining before a partial government shutdown goes into effect, Congress appears nowhere close to agreeing on a stopgap spending deal. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
The suspect in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson arrived in New York.
Murder in the first degree.
But was surprised with federal charges. I'm Jim Roope.
The International Brotherhood of Teamsters says workers at 7 Amazon facilities are beginning a strike. I'm Donna Warder.
Air travelers bearing gifts this holiday season should be aware of what's allowed in the cabin. I'm Sagar Meghani.
On Wall Street, it was a weak attempt at a bounce back for stocks yesterday after Wednesday's plunge. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A state appeals court has removed Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis from the Georgia election interference case against Donald Trump. I'm Mike Hempen.
All ahead on America in the Morning. After a vote in the U.S. House scuttled a second stopgap spending bill in 2 days, a government shutdown appears to be more likely than not unless Congress can find some common ground. John Stolnis has the latest from Washington.
One day after President-elect Donald Trump and Elon Musk helped torpedo an agreement between congressional leaders on a continuing resolution that would have funded the government for 3 months, House Speaker Mike Johnson tried to get an alternate plan passed, only to fall well short.
On this vote, the yeas are 174, the nays are 235, one voting present. 2/3 not being in the affirmative, the rules are not suspended and the bill is not passed.
38 Republicans joined all but 2 Democrats in voting against the revised bill that Trump had praised and supported earlier in the day before the vote. House Speaker Mike Johnson laid the blame at the feet of the Democrats who said no.
Very disappointing to us that all but 2 Democrats voted against aid to farmers and ranchers, against disaster relief, against all these bipartisan measures that had already been negotiated and decided upon. Again, the only difference on this legislation was that we would push the debt ceiling to January of 2027.
Trump's demand for a 2-year increase in the debt limit through January of 2027 resulted in a revolt by Democrats and more than 36 Republicans. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries.
The Musk-Johnson proposal is not serious. It's laughable.
Democrats also resented Musk inserting himself into the process. Senator Elizabeth Warren telling CNN.
It really is the reminder who now runs the Republican Party, and it's Musk. He's the one who started tweeting at 4:30 this morning about what a bad deal this was and how terrible it was. And Donald Trump trails along much, much later and says, yeah, terrible deal.
But Republicans insistent on lowering deficits also revolted against Trump. Chief among them, Texas Congressman Chip Roy, who eviscerated those in his party who voted for it.
Because you never have any ounce of self-respect to go out and campaign saying you're going to balance the budget, and then you come in here and pass $110 billion unpaid for.
In a post on Truth Social yesterday, Trump harshly criticized Roy as obstructionist, urging for him to be primaried in 2 years. But 37 other Republicans, like Congressman Eric Burleson, joined him.
I love Donald Trump, but he didn't vote me into office. My district did.
So where do things go from here? Speaker Johnson was non-committal as he left the Capitol last night.
We will regroup and we will come up with another solution.
John Stolnis, Washington.
Luigi Mangione, the man suspected in the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, was flown to New York City for the purpose of appearing in a federal court. Jim Roope has details.
Mangione appeared first in a courtroom in Pennsylvania where he waived extradition and was handed over to NYPD detectives to be taken to what was thought was going to be an arraignment in state court on charges filed by Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg.
We charged him here in Manhattan earlier this week with murder in the first degree, among additional charges.
Those additional charges include murder with a terrorism enhancement, but Mangione, his lawyers, and most everyone else were surprised when he was taken first to FBI headquarters for processing, then to federal court to be arraigned on charges including murder, stalking, and a firearms offense, alleging Mangione traveled across state lines from Georgia to New York with the intent to kill, injure, harass, intimidate, and surveil Thompson, and used electronic communications, interstate highways, and the internet to carry out the stalking, shooting, and killing of Brian Thompson. he could get the death penalty, although it's unclear if prosecutors will seek the death penalty. Mangione's defense attorney, Karen Friedman-Agnifilo, was prepared to represent Mangione in state court, not federal court, and said in her 30 years of practice, that sudden surprise switch from state to federal court has never happened to her. She says, too, that some of the charges appear not only to overlap, but some even to be in conflict, suggesting possible double jeopardy, being charged with the same crime twice. But a 2019 Supreme Court ruling determined that state and federal agencies can bring the same charges because they are separate entities. So this case, quite unusual. Add to that an Emerson College poll that finds 41% of young people say that what Mangione did is acceptable. Another bit of interesting in this unusual case is that Mangione's attorney did not seek bail at yesterday's hearing. They say they'll reserve that for a later time, which sends Mangione to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, the same place where Sean Diddy Combs is being held. When Mangione will be arraigned on those state charges, still unclear. I'm Jim Roope.
Don't take that holiday gift on an airplane. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Today's national forecast is in with AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
The Clipper storm that moved through the northern plains states continued into the Great Lakes and spread a nice area of snow, with many locations having 3 to 6 inches along the path of the storm. As the storm continues into the eastern Great Lakes and northeast, it will lose some intensity as it does so, but will still allow for a few inches of snow through parts of Michigan into New York and then southward to West Virginia today and tonight. Some higher elevations could even get as much as 6 inches today and tonight in West Virginia. This storm will interact with another area of low pressure off the eastern coast, which will lead to some rain in eastern Virginia, which will mix with snow in Maryland and Delaware into New Jersey and southeast New York. And as the storm continues northward tonight, the mixing from New Jersey northward will change to all snow as colder air arrives, and a moderate snow will be possible through portions of Cape Cod into down east Maine. This will usher in some of the coldest air this season into the northeast and middle Atlantic this weekend. A second and considerably less intense Clipper system will enter this afternoon in the northeast part of Montana and then continue into North Dakota later today and tonight. This could also produce an inch or two of snow. Meanwhile, in the northwest, we see a weakening cold front coming into the region, which will lead to a few afternoon showers near the coast of Washington and Oregon. It will otherwise remain dry through the rest of the western states with some valley fog to start, and then sunshine will peak out with many areas remaining well above average with highs in the 40s and 50s in the north and warming to the 80s across the southwest. That's the weather across America. Annapolis, Maryland will have plenty of clouds today and a rain or snow shower around in the afternoon with a high of 40. Scottsbluff, Nebraska will have a milder day again with a mixture of clouds and sun and a high of 54. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. It's possible that holiday gift will not arrive on time. Workers at several Amazon facilities are going on strike. Correspondent Donna Warder reports. Audio courtesy WABC-TV, New York City.
Driving for Amazon right now, it's a nightmare. Sometimes there's a good part, sometimes there's a bad part as well. And on top of this, we have to drive under dirty vans.
These vans are, the step ladders are broken. You go in there, you find bottles full of urine. You know, it's just disgusting.
We need to unionize because we need better safety, we need better respect, we need better pay. I am a mom to a 9-year-old. It's a girl, and she's my everything. So me and my baby, we need that. We definitely need that.
The International Brotherhood of Teamsters says workers at 7 Amazon facilities are beginning a strike in an effort to pressure the company for a labor agreement. The Teamsters say Amazon has ignored a December 15th deadline the union set for contract negotiations. The union says it represents nearly 10,000 workers at 10 Amazon facilities, a small portion of the 1.5 million people working in Amazon warehouses and corporate offices. Amazon says it doesn't expect the strike to to impact its operations. The union says the strikes are taking place at one Amazon warehouse in San Francisco and 6 delivery stations in Southern California, New York City, Atlanta, and Skokie, Illinois. I'm Donna Warder.
As for taking a flight, Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports holiday air travelers should be aware of what gifts they bring on airplanes.
At Newark Liberty International, the TSA's Thomas Carter says you can carry on a wrapped gift, but
my sincere recommendation is do not wrap the gifts.
Because if it trips an alarm,
we will have to open it, and then we will be like the Grinch and ruin that Christmas wrapping.
Instead, TSA officer Lazaro Adon recommends gift boxes or bags.
All we have to do is look inside, and there's no need to rip anything up.
As for what's inside, Adon says solid foods are fine.
If you like fruitcake, you can bring fruitcake. I don't know why I don't like fruitcake, but if that's what you like, you go ahead and do that.
But careful with the liquids.
Maple syrup, it's a nice gift, by the way. If you go with a carry-on, those things cannot go.
I'm Sagar Meghani.
When we return on America in the Morning, corporations eye the most valuable college sports programs. After these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. How will we find markets at the opening bell this morning? Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a pretty weak attempt to bounce back from Wednesday's ugly sell-off for stocks. The major averages were mixed yesterday. The Dow plunged 1,100 points on Wednesday. It was up 15 yesterday, snapping its longest losing streak since 1974. The Fed did a rate cut on Wednesday. So why are mortgage rates going up back above 7%? Because the Fed doesn't directly have anything to do with home loan rates. Instead, they follow the yield on the 10-year Treasury, which is going higher. More existing homes were sold in November than forecast. A quarter of all those home sales were all cash deals.
Cash is still king at 25% of sales. The median price in November, $406,000, up 4.7% year over year, and 18% of sales went above list price. And I do want to note that mortgage rates shot up after the Fed announcement, up 21 basis points to well over 7%.
CNBC's Diana Olick. Crunch time now for the airlines. The Christmas and New Year's holiday period is on. Here's the CEO of Delta.
We're looking over the Christmas break from the Friday before Christmas to the Monday after New Year's, serving approximately 10 million people and doing it in great style with great experience.
Delta Airlines CEO Ed Bastian on CNBC. CNBC and Athletic Director Yu together put out an inaugural list of the 75 most valuable college sports programs. Ohio State at the top, valued at $1.3 billion, followed by the University of Texas, Texas A&M, Michigan, and Alabama. Wall Street Private Equity has been taking stakes in NFL teams. Why not ownership stakes in college sports programs?
This hasn't happened yet, but I think it will by the end of next year. I don't think they'll own majority stakes. I think what they'll do is they'll create a sort of a special purpose vehicle. They'll put the revenue generating assets in there like television, merchandising, licensing, retail, and they'll own a minority stake of that. Private schools may be the first to do this. You've got issues with the public schools. They're land grant schools. They have restrictions from the states. So there's some things to be worked out for sure.
Yeah. But one thing that seems certain is the profit motive has come.
Absolutely.
And it's come hard.
Big time. Big time for sure.
CNBC sports reporter Mike Ozanian with CNBC's David Faber. On today's watch list, we get the latest on inflation. Earnings are coming from Carnival Cruise Lines. We get the latest on consumer sentiment. Today's the 10th busiest shopping day of the year, ahead of tomorrow's Super Saturday, which is the second busiest shopping day of the year. New in theaters, A24's Baby Girl, Disney's Mufasa the Lion King, and Paramount's Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Prosecutor out, Trump legal case in question. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. The U.S. Senate votes overwhelmingly to advance a bill to boost Social Security benefits for more than 2 million Americans by repealing 2 laws that have limited payouts to state and local public sector workers and their families. The bill's sponsors say that over 2 million Americans would see their Social Security benefits increase. The measure must pass one more procedural hurdle in the U.S. Senate before receiving a final vote and then head to President Biden's desk. The prosecutor in the Georgia election case against Donald Trump has been removed. More on the decision from correspondent Mike Hempen.
A state appeals court has removed Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis from the Georgia election interference case against Donald Trump and more than a dozen others. In a 2-1 ruling, the court says this is a rare case in which there is no other remedy to restore public confidence in the integrity of the proceedings. However, the court did not dismiss the indictment. The Prosecuting Attorney's Council of Georgia will have to find another prosecutor to take over the case and decide whether to continue to pursue it, but everything could be delayed if Willis decides to appeal to the Georgia Supreme Court. I'm Mike Hempen.
America in the Morning for Friday, December 20th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour, the Trump-supported budget bill fails to pass the House.
The Pentagon says there are a lot more U.S. troops in Syria than previously disclosed. Sagar Meghani at the White House.
A drone ban in New Jersey. I'm Bob Brown. That story next.
A former top aide to New York City's mayor indicted in a bribery case. I'm Pamela Furr.
An Oklahoma man has died by lethal injection in the nation's final execution of 2024. I'm Haya Panjwani.
There's been a wider selection of homes on the market, and buyers are encouraged. I'm Rita Foley.
Another Sonic the Hedgehog movie is racing into theaters for Christmas. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Moderate to heavy snow across the country today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy with the forecast.
The Northwest will have another weakening cold front heading into the area this afternoon. They'll have a few showers along it on the coasts of Washington and Oregon. Otherwise, the high pressure is going to remain strong through the western states with some valley fog to start the day, but then sunshine will peek out, and many areas are going to remain above average with highs in the 40s and 50s in the north, and then warming up to the 80s across parts of the southwest. However, 2 separate systems will have larger impacts in the northwest into northern California this weekend. This dry weather is going to continue into the rest of the plain states with high pressure maintaining control. But the colder weather has shifted into the region, especially in the northern and central plains, where highs will be in the single digits in the north and only climb into the middle 30s in parts of Kansas and Missouri. This is about 10 to 20 degrees below the historical average. The Clipper storm that moved through the northern plains yesterday will continue eastward into the eastern Great Lakes and northeast today. This will lose some intensity as it does so, but still allow for a few inches in parts of Michigan into New York and then southward to West Virginia today into tonight. Some higher elevations in West Virginia could even get as much as 6 inches. This storm will interact with another storm offshore on the eastern coast, which will lead to some rain in eastern Virginia and then could mix with snow in Maryland and Delaware and New Jersey as southeast New York. As the storm continues northward tonight, the mixing from New Jersey northward will turn to all snow as colder air arrives. Moderate snow will be possible through portions of Cape Cod into down east Maine. This will usher in some of the coldest air this season into the northeast and middle Atlantic as we head into the weekend. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. The U.S. government will shut down in less than 24 hours unless Congress comes up with a plan and acts on it by tonight. Federal funding expires when the clock strikes 12:01 a.m. Saturday. An agreement on Wednesday backed by House Speaker Mike Johnson with help from Democrats fell apart when Donald Trump and Elon Musk panned the plan, and after the GOP leadership spent most of Thursday coming up with a new deal, which went to vote and was torpedoed by nearly 36 Republicans who did not approve of raising the debt ceiling, something that the president-elect wanted. On the House floor before the vote, both sides blamed the other.
For decades, the Republican Party has lectured America about fiscal responsibility, about the debt and the deficit. It's always been phony. This bill proves it.
What we're doing right now is to continue to double down on the things that are destroying the republic. We have spent $4.7 trillion in additional debt in the last 19 months. We're going to increase the debt by $5 trillion. That's what's going to happen right here by Republicans.
They got scared because President Musk told them, President Musk said, don't do it. Don't do it. Shut the government down. Imagine.
Both parties agreed to these terms, and that's what's on the floor right now. The only change in this legislation is that we are going to push the debt limit to January 30th of 2027.
When the vote was taken last night by a count of 235 to 174, the House budget bill failed to pass. So what happens next? If Congress fails to act today, the House and the Senate can pass legislation called a continuing resolution to keep the government fully operating for a short period of time. And the next Congress and President-elect Trump will have to deal with this scenario sometime again in February or March. However, not everyone may go for that. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene posted on X that she would support shutting down the government until Inauguration Day. If there is a government shutdown, millions of federal employees, including members of the military and reservists, would not get paid, but still have to report to work. Hundreds of thousands could get furloughed, and they would stop going to work. The TSA would operate, but with expected airport delays. Social Security and Medicare benefits would continue, and if history is any indication, in the end, all federal workers would receive their full back pay when the shutdown ends. Turning to the Middle East, talks to end the hostage standoff between Hamas and Israel are progressing, which comes after Israel bombarded Yemen after Iranian-backed Houthis targeted central Israel with a missile that damaged a school outside of Tel Aviv. There's a larger-than-expected American military presence in Syria. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports the Pentagon says it more than doubled the number of U.S. troops in Syria before the fall of the Assad regime.
The Pentagon says there are a lot more U.S. troops in Syria than previously disclosed, and they've been there a while.
These additional forces are considered temporary rotational forces that deploy to meet shifting mission requirements, whereas the core 900 deployers are on longer-term deployments. And as you know, for many of our deployments, numbers will fluctuate from time to time. But given that this number is significantly higher than what we've been briefing, I wanted to let you know as soon as I found out this information.
The U.S. had been saying there was no change to force numbers in Syria amid the Assad regime's fall, insisting 900 troops were there. Now,
in light of the situation in Syria and the significant interest, we recently learned that those numbers were higher. And so asked to look into it. I learned today that, in fact, there are approximately 2,000 U.S. troops in Syria.
Major General Pat Ryder says it's a temporary boost to help U.S. operations against the Islamic State group. How long have they been there?
It would probably be fair to say at a minimum months.
The revelation comes weeks before Donald Trump's return here to the White House. He tried to withdraw U.S. forces from Syria during his first term and says he does not back more getting involved there. Sagar Meghani at the White House.
Following outcry over mysterious drone sightings, and some being spotted in areas including over Donald Trump's Bedminster home and military facilities, the FAA is stepping in with an order for the skies above New Jersey. With that order, here's Bob Brown.
The FAA is enforcing a temporary drone ban in many parts of New Jersey until they can get to the bottom of the problem of daily reported sightings. The ban is in effect until January 17th without special permission from the government. New Jersey has been at the center of attention lately with reported daily sightings of drones flying over the region, although drone sightings have been reported in many areas of the Northeast. The FAA says the government may use deadly force against drones if they pose an imminent security threat. Pilots who violate the drone restrictions could have their drones intercepted and may be questioned by authorities. WABC TV in New York talking to the operator of a drone company who represents real estate clients who depend on the service.
Literally within the past few months, there's been a significant amount of people who they just ask us what we're doing, or they want to have a conversation and learn more about the drone. But there's definitely an uptick in people questioning what we're doing or it seems like they're nervous.
New Jersey State Senator John Bramnick.
They say we're shutting down airspace, and if you put a drone up there, we're going to shoot it down. But there's no imminent threat. You got me. It doesn't make people very happy when you hear that kind of confusion.
Normally, recreational drones can fly up to 400 feet under FAA regulations. A list regarding the New Jersey drone ban can be found online. Bob Brown, New York.
When we return on America in the Morning, tough pill for CVS to swallow, and mortgage rates, 7% the new normal? After these messages. This is America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. The New York City mayor's former chief advisor, her son, and 2 real estate investors were indicted on bribery and conspiracy charges, the latest in a string of investigations targeting people associated with Mayor Eric Adams. Following details, here's correspondent Pamela Furr.
Ingrid Lewis Martin, who until recently was one of the most powerful people in city government, was brought into a Manhattan courtroom in handcuffs. She and the others pleaded not guilty. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg.
We allege that Ingrid Lewis Martin engaged in a long-running bribery, money laundering, and conspiracy scheme by using her position and authority as the chief advisor to the New York City mayor, the second highest position in city government.
Prosecutors say Lewis Martin, who resigned on Sunday, and her son raked in over $100,000 and got other help in exchange for her speeding up approvals for construction projects.
Today's announcement addresses corruption at the highest levels of city government. The indictment unsealed today can be summarized in 3 words: quid pro quo.
Now, even though the mayor himself, Eric Adams, is fighting a separate corruption case, Bragg says
these charges do not allege any criminal conduct by Mayor Eric Adams.
In addition to the charges outlined Thursday, prosecutors said in court that Lewis Martin is the subject of several ongoing investigations. I'm Pamela Furr.
One of the largest drugstore chains in the nation is in trouble with the law. The Justice Department is accusing CVS Pharmacy of filling unlawful prescriptions for opioids. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
The Justice Department unsealed a civil complaint Wednesday that alleges that CVS Pharmacy filled unlawful prescriptions, including prescriptions for excessive quantities of opioids and Trinity prescriptions, which are a dangerous combination of an opioid, a benzodiazepine, and a muscle relaxant. U.S. prosecutors also claim that CVS filled large quantities of controlled substances written by prescribers it knew to write such prescriptions without any medical purpose. CVS says it has cooperated with the DOJ's investigation for more than 4 years, and it strongly disagrees with the allegations and what it calls the false narrative within the complaint. Donna Warder, Washington.
A surprising statistic released by the government. Purportedly, 2024 marks the highest numbers of people being deported from the U.S. in about a decade. Looking into that story, here's Lisa Dwyer.
While immigration in 2024 drove U.S. population growth to its fastest rate in 23 years to surpass 340 million residents, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement says it deported more than 270,000 people over a recent 12-month period. That's the highest annual tally in a decade. Deportations during the fiscal year that ended September 30th nearly doubled from the same period a year earlier. In a separate report, U.S. authorities say arrests for crossing the border illegally from Mexico in November fell 18% from a month earlier to the lowest level since July 2020. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
A man in Oklahoma was put to death by a lethal injection, the last execution scheduled in the U.S. this year, correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
An Oklahoma man has died by lethal injection in the nation's final execution of 2024. 45-year-old Kevin Ray Underwood was executed for killing a 10-year-old girl in a cannibalistic fantasy. He was pronounced dead at 10:14 a.m. at the state penitentiary in McAllister. It was the 25th and final U.S. execution of the year. Underwood killed Jamie Rose Boleyn in 2006. He admitted to luring Jamie into his apartment and beating her over the head with a cutting board before suffocating her to death. Underwood told investigators he nearly beheaded the girl in his bathtub before abandoning his plans to eat her. I'm Sagar Meghani.
The numbers were good for November home sales, but there's concerns as mortgage rates have been ticking higher. Correspondent Rita Foley reports.
There's been a wider selection of homes on the market, and buyers are encouraged, even as mortgage rates mostly ticked higher. Sales of existing homes rose in November, 4.8% from October, says the National Association of Realtors. Home prices have been rising, too. The typical national sales price rose 4.7% from a year earlier to just over $406,000. For many prospective buyers, high prices and elevated mortgage rates have kept home ownership out of reach. I'm Rita Foley.
Friday Sports is in. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
NFL Week 16 kicked off last night as the Chargers bolted past the Broncos 34-27, 2 fourth-quarter TD passes for Justin Herbert. L.A. also benefited from an obscure rule as Cameron Dicker booted a 48-yard field goal at the end of the first half, the first successful fair catch kick in the NFL in 48 years.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I didn't know that was the case, so it's a pretty cool thing to hear that. But for me, it's the same thing as a normal field goal. You just don't have the operation, so you just go out there and you just roll.
The last guy to make that kick was Ray Wersching of the San Diego Chargers in 1976. 2 big AFC games coming up on Saturday, the Texans at the Chiefs and the Steelers at the Ravens. Sunday, the top teams in the NFC are all on the road. The Lions are at the Bears, the Eagles are in D.C., and the Vikings visit the Seahawks. College football last night, the New Orleans Bowl, Sam Houston edged Georgia Southern 31-26, forcing 5 turnovers. 2 more bowl games today, the Cure Bowl in Orlando, Ohio versus Jacksonville State, and the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa. Tulane takes on Florida. Then tonight, it's the first of the playoff games. 7-seed Notre Dame hosts number 10 Indiana. The other 3 playoff games are Saturday, SMU at Penn State, Clemson at Texas, and Tennessee at Ohio State. NBA, the Bulls surprised the Celtics 117-108 in Boston. Zach LaVine with a season-high 36 points. Grizzlies wiped out the Warriors 144-93. 51 points, the largest victory margin in the NBA this year. Thunder held off the Magic for their 6th win in a row. Blazers nipped the Nuggets on Anthony Simons' driving layup at the buzzer. Spurs got 42 from Victor Wembanyama to top the Hawks in overtime. Wins for the Jazz, Wizards, Nets, Rockets, Clippers, Pacers, Knicks, and Lakers. That's Friday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. When we return on America in the Morning, Big Bird out of work after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Thanks for listening. A third movie in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise hits theaters just in time for Christmas. Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at Sonic 3.
The third installment of Sonic the Hedgehog bolts onto the big screen this week.
We got a rogue alien on the loose. How do we find it?
Start with a giant fireball?
I love it. Let's start with a giant fireball.
Sonic 3 sees a new threat with another superpower-infused alien hedgehog named Shadow, bent on revenge. In an act of desperation, Sonic and his team bring back a worthy adversary to help.
This is a bad idea.
When has that ever stopped me?
But it could backfire.
What good is a dastardly plot if you can't conspire with family?
There's 2 Eggmen now?
I may have never played the game or watched the original cartoon, but I certainly understand the appeal here. Like its predecessors, the third installment delivers a sugar-coated Saturday morning cartoon level of energy, and that reached my inner child.
Are you Detective Pikachu?
He does look like a Pokemon! With a cast of CGI characters, this movie is full of brightly colored digital effects. Plus, pulling Jim Carrey out of retirement allows Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails to be less cartoony by comparison.
He is much more impressive than the hedgehog I fought previously.
Dude, I'm standing right here.
Sure, the script chases a dozen cliches, juggles MacGuffins, and is loaded with corny dialogue, but that's kind of what people want from a movie like this.
What is this den of madness?
Kids will love it, adults who played or watched Sonic as kids will love it, and if you're older than that, just give in to the chaos.
Try to keep up.
Sonic 3 gets 3.5 chili dogs out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
Cookie Monster, Elmo, and Big Bird are officially on hiatus. Sesame Workshop, the nonprofit company that makes the long-running children's show, is looking for a new distribution partner after Warner Brothers Discovery decided not to renew its agreement. Sesame Street had been streaming on their Max platform and said the decision to end the partnership was part of a broader corporate shift away from children's programming to focus more on adult and family-oriented content. The 55th season of Sesame Street will be the last on Max. Old episodes will remain available through 2027. You've likely heard that famous holiday favorite Rockin' Round the Christmas Tree several times this month. Entertainment correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports on the long history of Brenda Lee's holiday classic.
Brenda Lee remembers it was a warm day in Nashville when she recorded Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. To create atmosphere, the crew turned up the air conditioner and put up holiday decorations. Lee was 13 at the time, and the song did not even chart until 2 years later when she was better known. The big boost came in 1990 when it was featured in the movie Home Alone. As the movie became a holiday favorite, so did the song. Last year, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree became the single with the longest run from its release to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 at 65 years. Lee turns 80 on Wednesday and says she never thought her legacy would be a Christmas song. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
America in the Morning for Friday, December 20th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.